10 o'clock, all the tattoo parlors have opened in Old Orchard. That's where the kids have gone. Okay, let's light this candle. Deacon Smith and I would like to welcome you who are here for the first time, and you who are here forever, and bless you. And the goal in this service, as with most services, is for me to do as little as possible.
We begin.
Our opening words are by Marge Piercy. My mother gives me her recipe. Take some flour, I don't know, like 2-3 cups, and you cut in the butter. Now, some women, they make it with shortening, but I say butter, even though that means you had to have fish, see. You cut up some apples, not those stupid sweet ones, apples for the cake. They have to have some bite, you know? A little sour in the sweet, like love. You slice them into little moons. No, like half or crescent moons. You aren't listening. You mix sugar and cinnamon and cloves, some women use allspice, till it's dark and you stir in the apples. You coat every little moon. Did I say you add the milk? Oh, just till it feels right. Use your hands, milk in the cake part. Then you pat it into a pan. I like round ones, but who cares? I forgot to say you add baking powder. Did I forget a little lemon on the apples? Well, then you just bake it. Well, till it's done, of course. Did I remember you place the apples in rows? You can make a pattern like a weave. It's pretty that way. I like things pretty. It's just a simple cake. Any fool can make it. Except your aunt. I gave her the recipe, but she never got it right. And we will sing. Come sing a song with me. It's number 346. And please stay standing for our unison affirmation. It can be found on the inside of our order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So be it. Well, good morning. The sun is out, and it's just so good to see that sun. I'm hoping it stays out for the rest of the weekend and that it's out for the plant fair next weekend. And that's always so fun. It's out there on the common, and there's beautiful things and artists and food, and everybody's happy. It's so good, and we hope that you all come to that. Welcome. We gather here as a community of people who are more than categories. We gather here, each caring for the other, meeting one another's strength, encouraging wholeness. We give thanks for this extraordinary gift, the gathering together of separate, unique individuals as one whole community. Here may our minds stretch, our hearts open, our spirits deepen. Here may we acknowledge our brokenness and be ever stirred by love's infinite possibilities. We welcome everyone, no matter where you are on your spiritual journey, no matter your age, race, national origins, marital status, sexual orientation or gender identity, or economic status, abilities, disabilities, challenges. We like that you are here. We are so glad you're here among us. Welcome, no matter what is working or not working in your life. My name is Megan Lynes. I'm one of the ministers here. John Gibbons, our other minister, is at Ferry Beach with a whole bunch of folks. But we don't think of it as everyone went to Ferry Beach. It's really not like that. Some people go, and some people are here. And this is the right group of people who are here this morning. And let's just take a moment and say hello to our neighbors. Okay. So for announcements this week, some of them you can check out in the back of your order of service here. One of them that hasn't gotten too much press is that Laura Fell-Skolton, our student minister, is leading a really neat project. It's 4 nights. One night happened. It's on oral history, figuring out your own, telling it to each other, and finding a way to write it down. And they had a lot of fun the last time. They're going to meet on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. You could talk to her. She's actually at her home congregation in Carlisle this Sunday, celebrating Mother's Day over there. And she wishes us well, as do all the people from Ferry Beach. They sent their greetings to us. Next Sunday after church, we have a congregational open forum, and we hope that everyone is able to come to that. Next week's service is at 10 a.m., as are all of the services between now and June 8th, which is our concluding of this church calendar year. They're all at 10 a.m. Don't come at 9 unless you want to help out with coffee. All right. Welcome, one and all. Do join us for coffee, tea, and fellowship through these doors behind me after the service. It's good to be together. Welcome, one and all. And now a time for all ages.
Good morning. Happy Mother's Day. This is a story about Celia when she was a little girl in the little village that she lived in the old country. It was her job before the evening of the Sabbath to polish the candlesticks. The candlesticks had been passed down to the first granddaughter in her family, and they were her mother's candlesticks. So as the bread was baking, the challah was baking in the oven, and the sun was getting ready to set, Celia would gently and sometimes not gently polish the candlesticks. She thought they were beautiful. They were made special. They were brass. And at that time, you weren't allowed to make something ornate without having the crown of the czar embedded in the design. And so on these Sabbath candlesticks that stood about this high was the crown of the czar, upside down. Celia admired the candlesticks so much she hoped that someday she would have a daughter, because they go to the first granddaughter, and she was the first daughter. When Celia was 13 years old, her mama sat her down. She said, "Celia, I have something to tell you. I am your grandmother. I am not your mother." And Celia thought about all the wonderful things her mama had done and taught her how to do and how to take care of things, and was very confused. And she said, I don't understand. And Mama said, "When you were a baby, your mother died. She was my daughter. Your father couldn't take care of you, so he left you with me. And he went to America." And then a light went off in Celia's head. "You mean I get the candlesticks?" And her mama, Grandma, her bubby, told her, "Yes, they are your candlesticks." Excuse me. When Celia was 14 years old, her grandmother helped her pack up the candlesticks into a rag bag and carry a few of her belongings to the train station. And Celia went off on a very, very long trip across the ocean. She was going to Boston. She had heard that her father was living in Boston, and she wanted to find him. And so she set off on her travels at 14 years old across the long, dark ocean in the big, big ship, all crowded with people. When she got to Boston, she started living with an aunt, I believe, and she did find her father. And when she found her father, he was married, and his wife had 4 children. He and his wife had 4 children, and his wife felt that they could not keep Celia with them. So Celia started a place of her own with all of the things that her grandmother had taught her how to create a home. And Celia went to night school to learn how to speak English. And at night school, she met William. She met William. And they became really good friends. And they decided that it would be a good idea to get married, because then they could share their finances and live together, and things would be a lot easier financially for them. And as they were living together, they fell in love. They had one child, Nathan. They had another child, Sally. They had another child, Sylvia. And then they got on a boat and traveled all the way to live on a kibbutz for a while in Israel. And while they were there, Betty was born. But Betty got very sick from the desert heat, and they had to come back to Boston. And they came back, and when they got back, their baby was born, the youngest of all their children. She was actually called Frances Mildred because she was named after her father's sisters who had since died, but he couldn't bring himself to call her that. So he called her the baby. And at some point along the way, her name changed to Bay. The children grew up, and they started having children. And all of the sisters and their brother wondered who would have the first granddaughter. The first child was born. It was a boy. The second child was born. It was a boy. The third and the fourth, boys. The fifth, another boy. The sixth, a girl. A girl who carried the responsibility to carry the family heirloom to the next grandchild. When she was born, her mother was delivering her, and when they said, "It's a girl," the first thing her mother said was, "I get the candlesticks." But no, I got the candlesticks. And now I'm waiting for a granddaughter of my own. The mothers in our family. I'm going to pass.
And kids and some teachers and Lisa are going to head to in-gathering, and Oliver, that's great. We're gonna sing. This is one of my favorite hymns in the whole hymnal. It's Sleep, My Child. I hope someday to have a little kid to sing that too, and it is number 409.
Now is the time. I'm Maria Green from the Lay Pastoral Care Team, and now is the time in the service when if you would like to light a candle of joy and sorrow, please come up. I just ask that people hold the microphone close and speak up so everybody can hear. Also, I'll be at the candle stand after the service if anybody would like to light a candle in private. Unspoken joys and sorrows in the congregation.
This poem is called To My Mother by Wendell Berry. I was your rebellious son, do you remember? Sometimes I wonder if you do remember, so complete has your forgiveness been. So complete has your forgiveness been, I wonder sometimes if it did not precede my wrong, and I erred, safe found within your love, prepared ahead of me, the way home or my bed at night, so that almost I should forgive you who perhaps foresaw the worst that I might do and forgave before I could act, causing me to smile now, looking back, to see how paltry was my worst compared to your forgiveness of it, already given. And this, then, is the version of that heaven of which we have heard, where those who love each other have forgiven each other, where for that the leaves are green, the light a music in the air, and all is unentangled, and all is undismayed. And this is a poem called Song for a Daughter by Ursula Le Guin. Mother of my granddaughter, listen to my song. A mother can't do right, a daughter can't be wrong. I have no claim whatever on amnesty for you, nor will she forgive you for anything you do. So are we knit together by force of opposites, the daughter that unravels the skein the mother knits. One must be divided so that one be whole, and this is the duplicity alleged of woman's soul. To be that heavy mother who weighs in everything is to be the daughter whose footstep is the spring. Granddaughter of my mother, listen to my song. Nothing you do will ever be right. Nothing you do is wrong. Freely we have received, freely may we give. The morning's offering will now be gratefully received. John and I chose something to read at the same time this morning for our first parish services in 2 different places. So folks at Ferry Beach are sitting in a circle on a lawn right now since it is not raining on them, and we are sitting here in our cozy meeting house. And yet, we are also all together. This grouchy little piece was written by Anne Lamott a few years ago, and she says that she wrote it as a rejoinder to the really sickening national approach to Mother's Day. She added, P.S. I miss my mom like crazy. Anne Lamott's words. I did not raise my son Sam to celebrate Mother's Day. I didn't want him to feel some obligation to buy me pricey lunches or flowers, some annual display of gratitude that you have to grit your teeth and endure. Perhaps Mother's Day will come to mean something to me as I grow even dottier in my dotage. I will find myself bitter and distressed when Sam dutifully ignores the holiday. Then he will feel ambushed by my expectations, and he will retaliate by putting me away even sooner than he was planning to, which, come to think of it, would be even more reason to hate Mother's Day. I hate the way the holiday makes all non-mothers and the daughters of dead mothers and the daughters of dead or severely damaged children feel the deepest kind of grief and failure. The non-mothers must sit in their churches, temples, mosques, recovery rooms, and pretend to feel good about the day while they are excluded from a holiday that benefits no one but Hallmark and Seas. There is no refuge, not at the horse races, movies, malls, museums. It should go without saying that I also hate Valentine's Day. Mothering has been the richest experience of my life, but I am still opposed to Mother's Day, she says. It perpetuates the dangerous idea that all parents are somehow superior to non-parents. Don't get me wrong, there were times I could have literally died for love of my son, and I felt stoned in his rich, desperate love for me. But I bristle at the whispered lie that you can know this level of love and self-sacrifice only if you are a parent. We talk about loving one's child as if a child were a mystical unicorn. 98% of American parents secretly feel that if you have not had and raised a child, your capacity for love is somehow diminished. 98% of American parents secretly believe that non-parents cannot possibly know what it is to love unconditionally, to be selfless, to put yourself at risk for the gravest loss. But in my experience, it's parents who are prone to exhibit terrible self-satisfaction and selfishness who can raise children as adjuncts, like rooms added on in a remodel. Their children's value and achievements in the world are reflected glory necessary for these parents' self-esteem and sometimes for the family's survival. This is how children's souls are destroyed. But my main gripe about Mother's Day is that it feels incomplete and imprecise. The main thing that ever helped mothers was other people mothering them, a chain of mothering that keeps the whole shebang afloat. I am the woman I grew to be partly in spite of my mother and partly because of the extraordinary love of her best friends and my own best friends' mothers, and from surrogates, many of whom were not women at all, but gay men. I have loved them my entire life, even after their passing. No one is more sentimentalized in America than mothers on Mother's Day. But no one is more often blamed for the culture's bad people and behavior. You want to give me chocolate and flowers? That would be great. I love them both. I just don't want them out of guilt, and I don't want them if you're not going to give them to all the people who helped mother our children. But if you are going to include everyone, then make mine something like M&Ms, and maybe flowers you picked yourself, even from my own garden. The cut stems wrapped in wet paper towels, and tin foil and a waxed paper bag from my kitchen drawers. I don't want something special. I want something beautifully plain. Like everything else, it can fill me only if it is ordinary and available to all. Thank you, Annie. After reading this piece earlier this week, I started thinking, of course, about my own mother. And at the risk of sentimentalizing the relationship, I will tell you 3 things that I like about her. The first thing you need to know about my mom is that she is British, and I call her Mummy. She was raised in Malaysia and was a seen and not heard girl. She was taught to be so good. Humbleness was a core value, and accepting praise was tantamount to stealing. So one thing I have grown to understand about my mom is that every piece of self-worth that she managed to sort out for herself or tried to pass along to her kids came as if by climbing a mountain with her teeth. Feeling worthy is not the same thing as showing off. Something else I love about my mom is that if you meet her, she will ask about your family or your people, and she will plant her feet and she will stay there while you answer, even if one or both of you feel awkward. And this is the best way to get to know someone, to stay longer than you are comfortable and keep trying to connect. Lastly, I love her subtlety. One summer when I was 12, she taped the French verb to be and all its conjugations to my wall by my bed. I was about to start middle school in a new town and was sure to be behind in everything: academic content, friendships, knowledge of the town, and the way school worked. I have never told her this, but that French verb list became my mantra as I trudged down the halls of 7th grade hell. Je suis, tu es, il ou elle est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont. It was a message about existence. I am, I told myself in my own magic language, the only class I could excel at. 2 years later, when I got to high school, the first thing I noticed was this huge metal sculpture on the lawn. We are, it declared. It was huge, really huge. It was rusty and ugly and gorgeous, and it had been made using the words of a poem written by a student who had taken her own life. When I saw those 2 words, I knew right away how much better we are was as a concept, so much better than I am. But I wouldn't have found community there if I hadn't first found self-acceptance, and my mom had done what she could to teach me that by rote. Maybe you had a mother you could turn to, or who was fierce, or one who wasn't even biologically related to you. All these mothers count, as Anne Lamott said. Many of us were raised or nurtured through the years by surrogates. They are birth mothers, adoptive mothers, foster mothers, mentors, and mothers of invention. They are the ones who guided, comforted, and challenged us, and they lived next door or across the country. Some families have no women as parents, and others have only women as parents. Some of us have lost our mothers years ago, or ties now are strained or severed, and that loss is greater than words. We honor that reality today, too. But today is a day to reflect on mothers of all kinds, lovely and imperfect, and consider who has been a mothering presence for each of us in our lives. I wonder who in your life has been a mothering presence for you. Was there a moment that you needed someone badly and your own mother or someone else helped you out along the way? Mothering is the way a teacher says, I know you can do better, and I won't accept any less from you. Mothering is the way a resident assistant in a dorm knocks on the freshman's door at 2 a.m. because from out in the hall, the argument starts to sound steely and mean. Can you just leave now, the freshman says to her guest, and the RA stands there until that happens. Mothering is the way an elder speaks the truth without blame to her young friend whose business has failed. And suddenly he hears that this loss is not his whole life. This too shall pass, she tells him, and it does. Sometimes I look back on my own journey towards becoming a minister. I didn't know when I entered divinity school if I was going to be able to make it, whether I'd flunk out, whether I'd become a parish minister or a chaplain or something else entirely. The person who most shaped me through the process told me straightforwardly she wanted to see me in a parish, required me to stand up and shake, but stand up tall, was Diane Teichert. Many of you know her because she was the assistant minister here for a year, the year before I came. She was also my supervisor in Canton, Mass, where I did my internship in 2004, 5, and 6. She served there for 10 years, and then she came here for a year, and now she is serving Paint Branch in Maryland. I remember her keen eyes as we sat in supervision and how patient she was as she asked me questions for which there were no answers but my own truth. I would try to figure out what she wanted me to say, but that was not of interest to her, and certainly that was not the point of theological reflection. She taught me to stay put in the desert and dig in one spot until I could find water. She taught me that no matter what sermon you preach, Job, the suffering one, is always in the room, and if you don't make space in the service for that person, you have as good as closed the door in their face. She taught me that prayers change people, and people change people, and so even spiritual humanists like herself can pray. One day, I caught sight of her notepad upon which she'd written categories of tasks and goals for herself. There were 10 sections. Each sections had subtitles. Under one section, in one subtitled spot, was simply written, "Supervise intern." What a huge impact she had on me every single day, and yet I was only one tiny aspect of her ministry. I admired her for her clear expression of thought and her ability to lead in a way that made others want to join in. And she had a wonderful wit. You never know who will make you laugh at yourself, and this I know is true. Those are people to keep around. So along with all of you, I was shocked to hear that Diane, who is only 62, went into the office 3 weeks ago and had a major hemorrhagic stroke that paralyzed the left side of her body. Though her thinking is unharmed, talking is difficult and much is exhausting. Her family has been keeping everyone updated using an online site called Caring Pages, and I thought I would share with you a recent post from there. This was written by Diane's husband, Don, on May 8th. He called it a day of new milestones. Diane's day started with occupational therapy at 6:30 a.m. Diane is learning how to swallow, and in the coming weeks will need to learn how to walk again. She has made remarkable progress, but faces significant challenges ahead. The therapist, with help from other staff, enabled Diane to wash her hair for the first time in 3 weeks. The water was warm and it felt great. Later, Diane connected with her recreational therapist for one of Diane's favorite pastimes, a game of Scrabble. Diane says it was challenging to see opportunities on the left side of the board, and it was harder to make words that read across from left to right than to make ones that read down the board. Diane can see on the left just fine. The problem is one of being aware of perceiving what is over there on the left. Later, the speech therapist gave Diane permission to eat a peppermint patty. It tasted like heaven, Diane also comments that the food here tastes a little bit like what you think you ordered. Thanks for helping us laugh, Diane. We all need more of that. She was always, she could just say the funniest things, just completely deadpan, and then she'd just pause to see if you got it. And if you didn't, well, you just went along on your way. She was so sparkly. I think she still is. Life, Rumi says, you will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand. I'm going to bring a card out to coffee hour after the service, and we'll leave it there for this week and bring it back for next week. And if you would like to sign it, all are welcome. She has just been moved to a great rehab. I hear that it has big, huge windows, and it looks out on trees, and I hear that cards line the windowsill there. And I invite all of us to be a part of that web of support for her. In our families and close relationships, the natural cycles of life invite us to care for one another in changing ways through the years. Healthy friendships have a give and take to them, which mothers other people. You are mothered and then you mother others. It goes about like that, and we all take turns. Reciprocity allows for this. Part of the reason that mothering young children feels so hard at times is that the reciprocity can take years to even out. A mother carries a child, and then in middle age they are perhaps peers, and then in old age the child can find him or herself caring for the mother. Sometimes it is really hard to have these caregiver roles flipped. We're just not used to it being like that. Other times it's a gift. With permission, I share with you what Linda Politz told me about her changing relationship with her own mother through the years. She writes, "My folks divorced when I was young, and Mom never remarried. As the youngest child, it was only Mom and me in the house when my older sibs had flown the nest. I recall in high school, if we wanted a treat, that we would go out for Chinese food. We'd pore over the menu, deciding which new thing we'd try while sipping our green tea. One evening, while looking around the restaurant at the other diners, Mom surprised me by making up stories about the lives of the other diners. See that couple over there? She just left her high-powered job as a partner in a downtown Cleveland law firm and is now building gardens in the inner city. See how dirty her fingernails are? It's a dead giveaway." At first I thought she was serious, although for the life of me I couldn't figure out how an English teacher would know who the partners of the big Cleveland law firms were. I asked, "Really?" She just looked at me and smirked, and I discovered a wickedly funny, creative side of my mom I never knew existed. And so I jumped on the bandwagon and began to make up stories too. We had a wonderful time that night. The Chinese food never tasted so good as when it was sprinkled with a spicy story. My mom has Alzheimer's now, she writes. In these early stages, she can still communicate, enjoys a good story, and is in many ways still herself. While she doesn't always retain the long articles in the New Yorker, she always enjoys the cartoons. We'll often sit together and go through old issues and chortle out loud, sharing cartoons back and forth. The stories she would make up for me in high school are the hearthstones of the ones I tell for her now. What we've held onto is our laughter and our friendship through the years, and for this, I am grateful. When you think about people you've taken time to nurture and care for, what faces come to mind? Is there anyone you'd like to reach out to whom you haven't talked to or seen in a while? What's in your way? Knowing that there is no perfect mother out there in the universe, and no ideal way of mothering, well, that might just give you a little more wiggle room. And I want to do something that people sometimes hunger for in the type of thing where we have a service and then we have a discussion upstairs. I want to condense that into a 5-minute segment here. Just if you have a thought here about a memory of someone who mothered you or someone who you mothered, and that was just a really significant experience. If you can condense that into just 3 sentences, I will let you have the mic and you can all hear each other, just a few of us to share. So let me find that mic. or you mothering someone else? Oh.
I lost my biological mother a long time ago. When I moved to Bedford, I met a woman named Marge Jansen who lived across the street. And she taught me how to be a neighbor. It was a wonderful gift.
Thank you.
I received a card a couple of years ago from a young mother who grew up in my former church, and she was really under my wing. And it was a thank you card for helping her through her tumultuous family life, which I hadn't realized how difficult it had been for her. And just keeping her in my life, apparently it really made a difference.
I'm Holly Hosmer. I was blessed and still am blessed to have a wonderful mother, but when I married my husband, I got a wonderful mother-in-law. She was kind, generous. She even offered to move next door to us when we had twins so she could help.
Hi. I had an aunt who really was my mother. Not biologically and not in residence, but that was the relationship that we had. And then she continued the relationship with my children. And they would come home from a visit with Great Auntie and say, "Mom, do you know what we had for breakfast? We had cereal with ice cream on it. Auntie says, it's just cream and sugar. Can we do that at home?" And there was this wonderful, ridiculous, lovely way of looking at life that Great Auntie had.
When I was little in Berlin, I had a plethora of mothers. I had my own mother, but she worked all day, but her mother lived with us and took care of me during the day. I also had 3 aunts, all of whom mothered me, and I had a cousin who was older, 8 years older, and was sort of like an elder sister. But then I also had an extra grandmother. This cousin's grandmother also included me. So I grew up until the age of 7, surrounded by mothers. And that gave me strength for the rest of my life.
I'm so happy to see all of you women. Are there any men who Mr.
This is about after I got a divorce, my ex-husband had a girlfriend who did not have any children, had not had any children, and she was very, very good to my daughter and my son. And I remember the first time he brought home homemade cookies that she made. There was a twinge of like, uh-oh. Then I'm like, oh, isn't that awesome? I don't have to make cookies anymore. And even though my ex is not with her anymore, my daughter and my son have continued to keep up the relationship, and I feel very grateful.
Okay, Leslie, I am coming to you. You are the last one. The men didn't sneak in. Oh, there is? Oh, Alec, I'll come to you.
Scratch a mental health professional and you'll find someone who needed a mother. And I had that in my clinical supervisor / therapist / mentor / everything else. She really gave me what I needed to take care of myself and love myself, and I will always appreciate her mothering.
I have a mic.
Good.
With my first two children, I was the primary caretaker for about 5 years. And where I lived, in the neighborhood that I lived, there were a couple of women in particular who helped me to take care of these kids, and we helped each other with all our kids. And so there was a lot of babysitting and meals cooked and back and forth it went. And, you know, I would not have, you know, gotten through it, I don't think, without them helping me. They were great mothers.
I really appreciate everybody being so willing to jump in and share all of that important stuff. In closing, I will share with you one last poem by Sharon Olds. It's called "The Summer Camp Bus Pulls Away from the Curb." Whatever he needs, he has or doesn't have by now. Whatever the world is going to do to him, it has started to do. With a pencil and 2 hearty boys and a peanut butter sandwich and grapes, he is on his way. There is nothing more we can do for him. Whatever is stored in his heart, he can use now. Whatever he has laid up in his mind, he can call on. What he does not have, he can lack. The bus gets smaller and smaller as one folds a flag at the end of a ceremony, onto itself and onto itself until only a heavy wedge remains. Whatever his exuberant soul can do for him, it is doing right now. Whatever his arrogance can do, it is doing to him. Everything that's been done to him, he will now do. Everything that's been placed in him will come out now, the contents of a trunk, unpacked and lined up on a bunk in the underpine light. What you have been given is what you carry within as a light, and it is enough. What you are able to give away becomes yours to keep. Life, you will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand. Happy Mother's Day. Amen. Our closing hymn is "Guide My Feet," number 348. What we call a beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. We shall not cease from exploration, and at the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Go in peace, gentle people.
We're coming up on closing words, but what else is missing from this potpourri?